The rain poured down in the quiet town of Oakbridge. Thomas Brown walked quickly, holding his umbrella tight against the wind. Thomas was 58 years old with gray hair and kind eyes. He lived alone in a small house that felt too empty, since his wife Mary and daughter Rose had died in a car crash 5 years ago. Thomas worked at the local community center, helping troubled teens. He was heading home after a long day. The streets were dark and wet, with only a few streetlights showing the way. As he turned the corner near his street, Thomas noticed someone sitting in the doorway of the old bakery shop. It was a young girl, maybe 16 or 17. She was soaked through, shivering, with a small backpack clutched to her chest. Her thin jacket offered little protection from the cold rain. Something about the girl made Thomas slow down. She reminded him of Rose, who would have been about the same age now. The girl had the same vulnerable look that touched his heart. "Hello. There," Thomas called softly, not wanting to frighten her. "Are you all right?" The girl looked up quickly, her eyes wide with fear. Her face was pale and thin, framed by wet brown hair. She looked ready to run. "I'm fine," she answered, but her voice shook from the cold. Her teeth were chattering. Thomas stood a few feet away, keeping his distance so she wouldn't feel threatened. "It's a terrible night to be outside. My house is just down the road. Would you like to come dry off and have something warm to eat?" The girl studied him carefully. "Why would you help me? You don't know me." Thomas thought about how to answer. "Because you look like you could use a friend right now, I promise, no pressure. Just a warm meal and a chance to dry off." The girl hesitated, looking at the dark, wet street and then back at Thomas. Trust didn't come easily to her, that much was clear. "I'm Thomas," he said gently. "I work at the community center just back there." After a long moment, the girl nodded, slightly. "I'm Emily," she said, her voice barely audible above the rain. "Nice to meet you, Emily. Let's get out of this rain, shall we?" Thomas moved closer, offering her space under his large umbrella. Emily stood up slowly, keeping her backpack tight against her chest. She stayed at the edge of the umbrella, ready to run if needed. Thomas didn't push. He understood fear. They walked in silence for a few minutes. Thomas pointed out his small brick house with its blue door and flower boxes in the windows. "That's home," he said. Once inside, Thomas showed Emily to the bathroom. "You can take a hot shower if you'd like. I'll find some dry clothes. They'll be too big, but they're clean and warm." Emily looked around the tidy house with suspicion. Her eyes noticed the photos on the wall. Thomas with a woman and a young girl, all smiling. "Your family?" she asked quietly. Thomas nodded, a flash of sadness crossing his face. "My wife Mary and our daughter Rose. They passed away 5 years ago." Something in Emily's expression softened slightly. She seemed to understand loss. While Emily showered, Thomas made tomato soup and cheese sandwiches. He placed a set of his daughter's old clothes outside the bathroom door. They might be a bit big for Emily, but they would be warm and dry. When Emily emerged, she looked younger in Rose's old sweatshirt and tracksuit bottoms. Her wet hair was combed back and she had some color in her cheeks now. "Feel better?" Thomas asked, placing a bowl of steaming soup on the table. Emily nodded, sitting down carefully. She ate slowly at first, then with growing hunger. Thomas didn't ask questions. He knew from his work that trust needed time. After eating, Emily looked at Thomas. "Thank you," she said simply. "You're welcome to stay the night," Thomas offered. "The spare room is made up, no strings attached, you can leave anytime you want." Emily studied him, still cautious but less afraid. "Why are you being so kind to me?" Thomas thought about his answer. "Because everyone deserves kindness, especially when they're having a hard time." That night, Emily slept in a real bed for the first time in months. Thomas didn't know it yet, but bringing Emily in from the rain was just the beginning of a story that would change both their lives forever. Morning light filtered through the curtains of the spare room where Emily slept. For a moment when she woke, confusion crossed her face. The comfort of a real bed felt strange after months of sleeping in shelters or doorways. She listened carefully to the sounds of the house, hearing movement in the kitchen below. Emily crept, downstairs still wearing Rose's old clothes. Thomas was making breakfast, the smell of toast and eggs filling the kitchen. He smiled when he saw her but didn't make a fuss. "Good morning. Hungry?" he asked, placing a plate on the table. Emily nodded and sat down. She ate quickly, as if afraid the food might disappear. "You slept well, I hope?" Thomas asked. "Better than I have in a long time," Emily admitted. She looked down at her empty plate. "I should go soon. Thanks for letting me stay." Thomas poured her some orange juice. "There's no rush. It's still raining outside." Emily glanced toward the window where heavy drops pattered against the glass. "I don't want to be a burden." "You're not," Thomas said simply. "The house has been too quiet for too long." Throughout the day, the rain continued. Emily stayed, helping Thomas wash the dishes and tidy up. She was quiet but watchful, studying the photos around the house. "How did they die?" she finally asked, looking at a picture of Mary and Rose. Thomas's hand stilled on the dish he was drying. "Car accident. Black ice on the road home from Rose's school concert." Emily nodded, understanding in her eyes. "I'm sorry." "Thank you," Thomas said. "Rose would have been about your age now." Later, as Thomas made soup for lunch, Emily spoke again. "My mom died 3 years ago. Cancer." She fidgeted with the sleeve of her borrowed sweater. "My stepdad, he changed after, started drinking. He wasn't nice anymore." Thomas listened carefully, not pushing for more. "Is that why you left home?" Emily nodded. 8 months ago. I thought things would be better on my own." A bitter smile crossed her face. "I was wrong." That evening, Thomas brought down a box from the attic. Inside were some of Rose's clothes that might fit Emily. "These have just been sitting there. You'd be doing me a favor by using them." Emily ran her fingers over a soft blue sweater. "Are you sure?" "Completely sure," Thomas said. "Rose would have wanted them to help someone." The next day, Emily still hadn't left. She helped Thomas in the garden despite the light drizzle, pulling weeds and planting new flowers. "I used to garden with my mom," she said, patting soil around a small plant. "She grew veggies in our back garden." Thomas smiled. Mary loved gardening too. She always said dirt under your fingernails was good for the soul. By the third day, Emily seemed more relaxed. She laughed at Thomas's bad jokes and watched cooking shows with him in the evening. When Thomas suggested she could stay as long as she needed, she didn't immediately refuse. "I could help around the house," she offered. "I'm good at cleaning and cooking simple things." "That would be nice," Thomas agreed. "But only if you want to." On the 4th morning, Thomas knocked on the bathroom door, clean towels in hand. "Emily, fresh towels for you. Just leave them by the door," she called over the sound of the shower. As Thomas bent to place the towels down, the door opened slightly, Emily reaching for her toothbrush on the sink. That's when he saw it, a small tattoo on her inner wrist. It wasn't just any tattoo, it showed a tiny flower with numbers underneath. 7 to 19-8. Thomas froze. He recognized that mark immediately. Just 2 months ago, a police officer had given a talk at the community center about human trafficking. The officer had shown them photos of tattoos used by trafficking rings to mark their victims. This exact design was used by a network operating across 3 counties. The numbers stood for the girl's handler. The towels fell from his hands as Emily quickly pulled her arm back and shut the door. Thomas felt sick. Emily wasn't just a runaway. She was being controlled, exploited. She had managed to escape, but they would be looking for her. With shaking hands, Thomas picked up his phone. He stared at it for a long moment, knowing what he had to do but worried about betraying Emily's fragile trust. Finally, he dialed 911. "Emergency services," answered a calm voice. "What's your emergency?" "I need help," Thomas said quietly, moving to the living room so Emily wouldn't hear. "I think I'm sheltering a trafficking victim." "They'll find me," Emily sobbed, curled up in the corner of the sofa. Her face was pale with fear. "They always do." After Thomas made the call, He had waited anxiously for Emily to finish her shower. When she came downstairs in clean clothes, her hair still damp, he gently asked about the tattoo. "Emily, I saw the mark on your wrist," he said carefully. "I know what it means." At first, she tried to deny it, pulling her sleeve down. Then she saw the knowledge in Thomas's eyes and broke down. The whole terrible story came out between sobs. She told him how after running away from her stepfather, she had met a charming young man named Jack at a bus station. He had offered her food, kindness, and a place to stay. For 2 weeks, he treated her well, making her trust him. Then everything changed. "He drugged me," Emily whispered, staring at the floor. "When I woke up, I was in a different city. They gave me the tattoo while I was unconscious. For 6 months, Emily had been moved between towns, forced to work for the trafficking ring. They used threats and drugs to control her. She had finally escaped during a transport to a new location, jumping from a slow-moving van at a traffic light and running until she couldn't run anymore. "I've been hiding for almost 2 months," Emily said. "But they have people everywhere. They don't let girls escape. It's bad for business." Thomas sat nearby, his heart breaking for her. "I called the police," he admitted. "Not regular officers, specialists who help people in your situation." Emily's eyes widened with fresh panic. "No, you don't understand. They have connections. Police can't protect me." "These ones can," Thomas insisted gently. "They work with a special task force. They've helped other girls escape this same group." Emily shook her head, tears streaming down her face. "You don't know what these people are like." Thomas moved closer, not touching her, but offering his presence. "Emily, I promise I won't let anyone hurt you again, but we need help to keep you safe." While they waited, Thomas made tea that Emily didn't drink. She kept glancing at the windows and doors as if expecting someone to burst in at any moment. "How? Did you know?" she finally asked. "About the tattoo?" "We had training at the community center," Thomas explained. "A police officer showed us signs to look for. Your tattoo, it's their brand. The numbers identify who controls you." Emily touched her wrist through her sleeve. "I hate it. Every time I see it, I remember. We can help you change it. Later," Thomas said. "Some tattoo artists work for free, turning marks like that into something beautiful." A gentle knock at the door made Emily jump. Thomas checked through the window before opening it. 2 people stood outside, a uniformed police officer and a woman in plain clothes with a kind face. "Mr. Brown? I'm Officer James, and this is Kate Miller from the Survivor Support Network," the policeman said. Thomas let them in, watching as Emily pressed herself further into the corner of the sofa. Kate approached Emily slowly, sitting in a chair across from her. "Hello, Emily. I know you're scared right now, and that's completely normal. I'm here to help, not to force you to do anything." Over the next hour, Kate explained everything to Emily: the safe house where she could stay, the counseling and medical care available, the legal protections they could offer. Officer James told her how her information could help find other victims. "There are at least 20 girls being trafficked by the same group," he said. "Your testimony could help us save them." Emily looked at Thomas, uncertainty in her eyes. "Whatever you decide, I'll support you," Thomas promised. Kate handed Emily a small card. "This has my direct number. Even if you're not ready today, you can call anytime." Slowly, Emily's breathing steadied. She looked at the card in her hand, then at the 3 faces watching her with concern. "Will I have to see them again? In court?" she asked in a small voice. "We have ways to protect your identity," Officer James assured her. "Your safety comes first." Emily took a deep breath. "If I tell you everything I know, can you promise to help the other girls? Some of them are younger than me." Kate nodded solemnly. "That's exactly what we want to do." Emily straightened her shoulders slightly, a tiny spark of courage growing. "Then I'll help. I don't want anyone else to go through what I did." Thomas felt a surge of pride watching her brave decision. Emily had been through hell, yet here she was finding the strength to help others. In that moment, he saw not just a frightened girl, but a survivor beginning to reclaim her power. The safe house was a large, plain building with security cameras and locked windows. Emily found it scary at first, but soon realized it was different from her previous captivity. Here, the locks were to keep danger out, not to keep her in. Kate had driven Emily and Thomas there after their meeting. Thomas had packed a bag with Rose's clothes for Emily, promising to visit whenever she wanted. Saying goodbye had been hard. In just a few days, they had formed a connection neither expected. "You'll be okay," Thomas had told her, not quite believing he could leave her there. "These people know how to help." "Thank you," Emily had whispered. "For everything." Inside the safe house lived 5 other girls, all rescued from similar situations. Some had been there for months, others just weeks. All had similar tattoos, though in different places: wrists, ankles, behind ears. Emily wasn't alone anymore. The house had simple rooms with comfortable beds, a large kitchen where they all ate together, and a garden surrounded by high walls. Counselors and support workers were always present, but they didn't control the girls. They supported them. Within days, Emily met with police officers who recorded her statement. She told them everything: names, places, faces, routines. Each detail was difficult to share, bringing back painful memories, but Emily pushed through. Her counselor, Lisa, sat with her through every interview. "You're doing so well," Lisa told her afterward, when Emily collapsed in tears. Each piece of information helps catch these people. The hardest part was the medical exams. Emily hated being touched, hated the questions about what had been done to her. But the kind doctor explained that treating her health problems was part of her recovery. 2 weeks after Emily arrived at the safe house, Thomas came to visit. He brought fresh flowers and homemade biscuits. Emily showed him around the common areas proudly. "I've started therapy," she told him over tea in the garden. "It's hard, but it helps." Thomas noticed small changes in her already. She stood straighter, made eye contact more often, sometimes even smiled. "The police said my information helped them find 3 other girls," Emily added. "They were rescued yesterday." Thomas felt his heart swell with pride. "You're remarkably brave, Emily." She shook her head. "I'm just doing what I wish someone had done for me sooner." As weeks passed, Emily settled into a routine. Mornings were for therapy and education. Many girls had missed years of school. Afternoons included art therapy, gardening, or cooking classes. Evenings were for relaxation and building friendships with the other survivors. Thomas visited every Saturday, bringing small gifts and news from outside. Sometimes they just sat quietly together, watching birds in the garden. Other times, Emily would share small victories from her week. A nightmare-free night, a new skill learned, a memory faced without breaking down. 1 month after Emily arrived, Officer James visited with big news. Based on Emily's information, police had arrested 8 members of the trafficking ring, including the man who had originally tricked her. "We found evidence connecting them to trafficking at least 37 girls," he told her. "Your testimony was crucial." Emily sat very still, absorbing this information. "Will I have to face them in court?" "No," Officer James assured her. "We have enough physical evidence that you won't need to appear. Your written statement is enough." That night, for the first time since her escape, Emily slept without fear. The Safe House program typically lasted 6 months. Girls received therapy, medical care, education, and help planning their next steps. Some reconnected with family. Others entered foster care or assisted living programs. All received ongoing support. Emily worked hard in her classes, making up for lost education. Her therapist helped her process trauma and develop coping skills for flashbacks and anxiety. Most importantly, she formed connections with the other survivors, girls who understood without needing explanations. 3 months into her stay, Emily made a decision. During Thomas's weekly visit, she shared her thoughts. "The counselors think I'm doing well," she said, picking at a loose thread on her sleeve. "They've asked if I have plans for when I leave here." Thomas nodded, trying to hide his concern about where she might go. "Do you?" Emily looked up at him, nervous but determined. "I was wondering if I could come stay with you." Not forever, she added quickly. Just until I finish school and can support myself. I could help around the house and I wouldn't be any trouble. Thomas felt tears spring to his eyes. In his heart, he had been hoping for this but hadn't dared suggest it. Emily, he said gently, nothing would make me happier. That house has been waiting for someone to make it a home again. Emily's smile bloomed slowly like a flower long kept in darkness finally reaching sunlight. For the first time in years, she could see a future worth fighting for. 18 months had passed since that rainy night when Thomas found Emily huddled in a doorway. Now, on a bright spring morning, Thomas adjusted his tie in the mirror and checked his watch. Today was important, Emily's graduation day. After 6 months in the safe house, Emily had come to live with Thomas. The spare room became truly hers, decorated with photos, books, and small treasures that represented her new life. Thomas had become her legal guardian, a process supported by the social workers who recognized the healthy bond between them. Emily's recovery hadn't been easy. There were still nights when Thomas would wake to hear her crying out from nightmares. There were days when crowds or certain smells would trigger panic attacks. But there were also countless moments of growth and joy that made every difficult day worthwhile. Thomas walked down the hallway and knocked gently on Emily's door. Ready? We should leave in 15 minutes. Emily opened the door, dressed in a simple blue dress with her graduation gown draped over her arm. Her hair was neatly styled, and she wore a small pearl necklace Thomas had given her for her 18th birthday. Do I look okay? She asked, smoothing her dress nervously. You look beautiful, Thomas said honestly. I'm so proud of you. The community college was filled with excited graduates and their families. Thomas found a seat in the audience while Emily joined her classmates. He watched as she chatted with friends, normal teenage interactions that once seemed impossible for the frightened girl he'd found in the rain. When Emily's name was called, Thomas stood up, clapping loudly. She walked confidently across the stage to receive her diploma, pausing to smile at the audience. In that moment, Thomas saw not just who she was, but who she was becoming. Emily had worked incredibly hard for this day, completing her high school education in record time despite her years of missed schooling. Her determination had impressed every teacher she encountered. After the ceremony, they met Kate from the support network and Officer James, who had both come to celebrate Emily's achievement. 2 years earlier, these people had helped save her life. Now they were here to witness her triumph. I have news, Officer James told Emily, as they shared cake at a nearby cafe. The final sentencing was yesterday. All the main operators received long prison terms. The evidence you provided was critical to the case. Emily nodded, emotions crossing her face. Good. They can't hurt anyone else now. Kate touched Emily's hand gently. How does it feel? Graduation day? Emily thought for a moment. Like proof that they didn't win. They tried to take my life away, but here I am with a diploma and plans for university. Thomas beamed with pride. Emily had been accepted to study social work at the local university, with a full scholarship. She wanted to help other survivors, like herself. Later that day, Thomas and Emily walked through the park, enjoying the spring sunshine. Emily's graduation cap was tucked under her arm as they found a quiet bench near the duck pond. I have something for you, Thomas said, pulling a small gift box from his pocket. Emily opened it carefully. Inside was a delicate silver bracelet with a butterfly charm. It was designed to cover the tattoo on her wrist, not to hide it in shame, but to transform its meaning. It's beautiful, Emily whispered, touching the butterfly with her fingertip. The butterfly is a symbol of transformation, Thomas explained. From something confined to something free. Emily slipped the bracelet on, watching how it caught the sunlight. The butterfly rested perfectly over the numbers that had once defined her. Thank you for everything, Thomas, she said. For taking me in that night. For calling the police even though you knew I'd be angry. For visiting every week at the safe house, for giving me a home. Her voice broke slightly. For becoming my family. Thomas felt tears in his eyes. You know, I thought I was helping you that night. But the truth is, You helped me too. After Mary and Rose died, I was just existing, not living. Having you in my life gave me purpose again. Emily smiled through her own tears. We saved each other, I think. They sat quietly for a while, watching ducks paddle across the pond. Emily's future stretched before her. University, a career helping others, a life reclaimed from darkness. Thomas would be there for every step, proud of the remarkable young woman she had become. Sometimes, Emily said softly, looking at her, bracelet, beautiful things can grow from the worst experiences, like flowers pushing through concrete. Thomas nodded. That's what resilience is, finding strength in the broken places. As the afternoon sun warmed them, Thomas realized that their story, which began with rain and fear and a desperate act of kindness, had transformed into something neither could have imagined, a second chance at family, for both of them.